From Thom Hartmann's Daily Take Substack. Welcome to the, quote, chilling stage, end quote, of tyranny, where the tyrant tightens his grip. The last moments to resist are slipping away, and history shows once fascism's grip tightens, it rarely loosens. Published on August 25th, 2025. The following is a song inspired by this article.
Whispers in the shadows, marching in the street. Power in the iron fist, silence in the beat. Voices fading quietly, drowned by the fear. History repeating, the warnings crystal clear. They said it could never happen, not in this land. But freedom slips like water, right through our hands. The chilling stage of tyranny is here. The window's closing fast, the end is near. Once the tyrant grips, he won't let go. This is the fight we can't afford to lose. You know. Prophets of democracy packed and moved away. Scholars saw the writing, but few dared to stay. The press is shackled tighter, the truth erased with lies, and protest turns to ashes under armored skies. They warned of FEMA camps, they laughed in the past, but the real chains are the ones that hold us now. At last, the chilling stage of tyranny is here. The window's closing fast, the end is near. Once the tyrant grips, he won't let go. This is the fight we can't afford to lose. You know. It doesn't end in fire, it ends in slow decay. Each right that we surrender is another stripped away. Stand now or live forever under rule of fear. The chilling stage of tyranny is here. The chilling stage of tyranny is here. Our voices fading out, our freedom disappears. Once the tyrant grips, he won't let go. This is the moment we decide. Resist or bow low.
Trump's now raiding the homes and launching investigations into political insiders who publicly criticized him. Other former Trump administration officials are climbing up. We've entered the phase of this transition to fascism where objections to his actions are, quote, chilled, end quote. Remember Jade Helm in 2015? the Obama administration was running a, quote, joint realistic military training, RMT, end quote, exercise, led by the U.S. Special Operations Command, coordinated across several branches, including Army Special Forces, Green Beret, Navy SEALs, Special Force, Air Force Special Ops, Marine Corps Forces, the 82nd Airborne, and other interagency partners. It was conducted over 7 states, primarily in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado, and overseen from Elgin Air Force Base in Florida. The objective was to train special forces in maneuvering through civilian populations and operating in varied terrain to simulate overseas combat environments like in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it made the right-wingers absolutely hysterical, with wall-to-wall coverage on Fox, quote, News, end quote, and across the nation's 1,500 hate radio stations. As Nina Burleigh wrote in Newsweek 3 months before the 2016 elections, quote, according to them, President Barack Obama will institute martial law and cancel or nullify the election in November, after which his Federal Emergency Management Agency will disarm and herd all the anti-abortion, religious right, gun-owning, homeschooling folks into secret, quote, FEMA camps, end quote, that his administration has spent years preparing, end quote. And it wasn't just the Alex Jones crowd that was spinning out Jade Helm. As Burleigh noted, Texas Governor Greg Abbott claimed Obama's, quote, Department of Defense was preparing to invade his state during a training exercise called Jade Helm, end quote. Fast forward to today. The federal government has created a masked police force and is building concentration camps at a breakneck pace. They're suing, investigating, and in some cases arresting and even deporting people based on things they've said in clear violation of the First Amendment. Republicans across the country seem not only to have forgotten their earlier fear of federal tyranny, they're now cheering it on. As Lev Parnas wrote in his excellent Substack newsletter, Lev Remembers, calling the raid on Bolton and Blanche's interview of Maxwell, quote, chilling, end quote, he warned us, quote, this week, what we witnessed was not just news. It was a setting, a preview of what's to come. Full takeover, full dictatorship. Up until now, we've been watching theatrics, a carefully choreographed script between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. But this week, the theatrics ended, and reality set in, end quote. Parnas isn't some wild-eyed liberal. He was one of Trump's closest guys during his first term and when running for office in 2016. He was also one of Trump's pipelines to Ukraine and Putin. As he puts it, quote, I am not a journalist. I am not a pundit. I am not giving you theories. I was one of them. I was inside the cult. I was in Trump's shadow diplomacy. I was sent to Eastern Europe to deliver his first quid pro quo to Zelensky. I know these people. I know they're in the inner circle, and I know exactly how far they're willing to go, end quote. Parnas added today that he fully expects Trump to screw Ukraine and normalize relations with Russia over the next month, so he can invite his dear friend and mentor Putin here for the FIFA games. Scholars on fascism like Jason Stanley and Timothy Snyder have left America for Canada. They know that once a fascist takes over an elected government, it's damn hard to dislodge them. Just ask Russians, Hungarians, Turks, Indians, North Koreans, Peruvians, Venezuelans, Brazilians, Chileans, or Egyptians. Meanwhile, Trump is deploying troops into American cities, cowing the press and defunding NPR and PBS, rewriting history in our museums, arresting Democratic legislators and judges, going after high-profile Democrats from Adam Schiff to Letitia James, threatening to seize voting machines in next year's elections, intimidating major law firms and universities, and sucking up to Putin and other dictators as if they, and not Western Europe, are America's allies. It's increasingly clear that we're no longer at risk of, quote, he's going to turn America fascist, end quote. We're already fully in the midst of what I write in my new book, The Last President, American President, a Broken Man, a Corrupt Party, and a World on the Brink, end quote. The economic side of this authoritarian project is also unmistakable. Trump is forcing companies to give the federal government a share of their revenue or even their stock as part of his transition to National Socialism. This month, it was 10% of Intel. Let's be clear. This isn't nationalization for the public good, as when FDR or Obama stepped in to save vital industries and preserve jobs. This is, instead, classic crony fascism, where private enterprise is bent to serve the state and its strongman leader. When Obama helped the auto industry weather the Bush crash of 2008 and 9, Republicans screamed, quote, socialism, end quote, and with Newt Gingrich calling it, quote, just wrong, end quote, predicting it would fail and make matters worse. Today, those same voices are silent as Trump embraces the very thing they once warned against, this time not to stabilize an economy, but to centralize his power. Knowing that much of what they're doing is outright illegal and that Trump can't be prosecuted, although he could be impeached, because 6 corrupt Republicans on the Supreme Court have given him king-like immunity and powers, his lieutenants are moving fast. They remember how Nixon's Attorney General, John Mitchell, went to prison for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and perjury, and how dozens of Nixon's cronies ended up indicted or jailed. Bondi, Noam, Patel, and the rest are working furiously to ensure accountability never reaches them. The media landscape is being transformed before our eyes. CBS is inserting a, quote, monitor, end quote, into newsrooms, presumably to avoid stories that might anger Trump. PBS and NPR have been defunded. ABC paid millions to settle a bogus Trump lawsuit. NBC is preparing to spin off MSNBC, and if it ends up in the hands of a right-wing billionaire, America will look like Hungary's or Russia's. One-note state propaganda. This is how it always begins. Even protests is being stifled. Student demonstrations against Gaza or Trump's corruption are largely gone, not because students don't care, but because they're shackled by massive debt and terrified of losing their futures. And those who do protest increasingly face expulsion, police, and even military repression. Trump has already violated the Posse Comitatus Act by putting soldiers into Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. to conduct policing operations. Now he says New York and Chicago are next. When he seizes voting machines and Republicans, quote, win, end quote, the 2026 election, will those soldiers be standing by with live ammunition to ensure there's no resistance? Is preventing protesters from pouring into the streets the reason why they rush to build more, quote, FEMA camps, end quote? Thankfully, a small handful of Democrats like Gavin Newsom and J.B. Pritzker are stepping up. But stopping America's slide into fascism must be job one for the entire Democratic Party, both legislators and constituents. And hopefully a few Republicans will find their consciences, their historic oppression to tyranny, and their voices. Which brings us back to us, you and me. History shows that public opinion is the only force strong enough to backstop anti-fascist officials. This means each of us must act as an amplifier and avatar of resistance. Share this and other progressive messages far and wide. Get active on social media, talk with friends, neighbors, and coworkers, call on former presidents, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, to show real leadership. Show up at your local Democratic Party's meetings and become a precinct committee person or any other role to shape its direction. Call your members of Congress at 202-224-3121 and demand they fight for freedom and democracy. The window for action is closing as a chill spreads across Washington, the media, and now into the states. As Trump continues down this road, the time will come, sooner rather than later, when we can no longer protest, when our private actions lead to arrests, lawsuits, harassment, or worse, and our public protests are met with armed troops. Orban and Putin have shown exactly how dissent is crushed, and Trump appears to be following their script. As Thomas Paine wrote in 1776, words George Washington ordered read to his troops, quote, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country, but he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered." End quote. The same applies today. The right once screamed that Jade Helm was a prelude to tyranny. They were wrong then. But today, their silence in the face of actual tyranny tells you something. This time, the danger is real. Tag, we're it.